Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED. This first weekend of December of 2015, Pete Belcastro, one of the real estate guys with you. I'm a real estate broker with John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, and we get together with you once a week here on KMED to talk about all sorts of real estate related issues and topics. And well, we've done this over 300 times and still trying to get it right, aren't we? I suppose you could say. But welcome to the show today. As you know, the rental market is really interesting to me as we watched it over the years, and I can't think of anybody better to talk about it today with us than Danielle Roberts from Sterling West Property Management, who manages hundreds of these rental properties around Jackson County. And first of all, welcome to the show. Nice to have you here, Danielle.
Hi, Pete. Thank you.
Yeah, well, happy Merry Christmas to you and all that good stuff in the holidays. Just kind of what's been going on in the market. Every time I see you, you're running somewhere, you're on the phone, you're doing this, and barely have a chance to say hello to you. So just give us a little update of the rental market as we know it here in December. I mean, the year's almost over.
It's typically a slower time for us as we get closer to the holidays. I wouldn't say that Sterling West has slowed down very much, but I do have last time I was here, I quoted some vacancy rates statistics, and we've actually jumped up a little bit, meaning that
more openings. Correct.
There's more openings, which is typical for this time of year. It's still a low number. So the SOROA, Southern Oregon Association of
The Rental Owners Association.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They monthly give us statistics, and they poll the owners and property management companies in Jackson County. And then they give property management companies the statistics for the month before. So for the month of November, the vacancy rates actually jumped up to 2.27%. I believe the last time I was here it was about 1%.
It was certainly under 2%.
Yes, it was definitely under 2%.
Yeah.
And that's really, a good vacancy rate, good meaning for the homeowners and the landlords, anywhere from, up to 5%. So we're still in a really low, tight rental market. And I expect that this vacancy rate will go right back down after the holidays. It's just that people don't want to move during Christmas.
The holidays are a tough time to move, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's a tough time.
It's just you want to stay home and decorate your tree. And
yeah.
I will say though, with Sterling West, we haven't really seen that slow down. We don't have any vacant units. Not even one.
And the 3-bedroom, 2 baths are still hard to find.
What it is, it's hard to find an affordable 3-bedroom, 2 bath
or an affordable one.
You're looking at about $1,300 a month for your middle of the road 3-bedroom, 2 bath home with a little yard, like a residential home. And renters haven't really seemed to kind of grasp the fact that rise has happened. They're still expecting to only pay around $1,000, and it's very hard to find them. $300 is a lot of money.
And there's not very many of them there to find, is there?
Correct.
And that supply and demand continues to work there. Well, Shannon Putris is a real estate broker with John L. Scott here in Medford. And Shannon, welcome to the show as well. Nice to have you with us today, too.
Thank you, Pete. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. What do you experience as an agent in terms of the rental market with clients? It's interesting, isn't it? You find some clients that you have want to buy them as investors, want to buy properties. Others, can't afford this or that. It's just a kind of a crazy thing, isn't it?
It is. And, we get lots of different people as clients. So we have people that are local from Medford. We're seeing, I'm sure you all know, clients that are coming in from out of state.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, they're seeing our prices. And so, for example, our Southern Oregon Multiple Listing Service puts out statistics. And the last one for numbers from August through October 31st indicate that the median price for 2015 in Jackson County was $220,000. And when we compare that year over year, last year in 2014, it was $215,000. So we're seeing about a $5,000 increase. It's a 2.3% over the year. But overall, they're seeing in the last 5 years a 33.3% increase in prices. So when we have a client that comes in, they, if anything, are seeing the urgency. If they're going to buy, they need to buy as soon as possible, especially when it's a good time when mortgage rates are still low. But what we'd really like to see are investors that can pay with cash. That would be great because to fulfill Danielle's needs, you know.
As you say that, if I had some of the lenders here, they would argue over that.
Oh, sure.
About the cash thing, you know.
The cash is king. What can I say? But
but investors do bring cash to the table, and I know that skewers a lot of appraisals sometimes, you know, because of cash, because they don't do an appraisal on properties and things like that. It's kind of it's always a double-edged sword, isn't it? Sometimes, no matter what you do.
Right, and I actually just learned this yesterday in our housing commission meeting that you know, if you have an appraiser that comes in prior to and they see a property, they appraise it at the current value, but they can also estimate, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z to this property, it's going to be worth X more. And so for what we're seeing here in Medford, especially with the need for more rentals, is we do have what we're hearing is a lower inventory of those homes under that median range of that 220. You know, if I have a buyer that's looking for that range, you better be on it. You better be ready to watch that MLS day and night to see when that new listing hits the market, because chances are it's going to go quick. Those houses do not stay in the market very long.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important as realtors that we network with each other and we talk about pocket listings, and we also provide our sellers enough time to market these properties and really just make sure that on day one that they're ready, so that we give all buyers a fair chance to get in on the deal. And those that are ready, those that either have cash or they're pre-qualified with their lenders, are the ones that are going to get those good deals right out of the gate.
I always liked it when Danielle would share in terms of when you had, I guess HAD is the key there. When you had available properties, you would share that with the agents there, John L. Scott and everything, and put that information out there.
Yeah, the networking is so wonderful for my business, and I know that John L. Scott benefits from it as well, and the tenants benefit and the owners benefit. It's just a wonderful. I haven't shared those because literally, you know, when I get a vacant property,
it's gone.
Typically, it's gone before it's ever become vacant. Really, it's spoken for. So when somebody puts in a 30-day notice, we usually have it already rented before those people ever move out, and there's just no pitching.
Yeah. What's the pressure on price increases for you by landlords right now? Is it intense? Is this what's happening? I mean, you hear all sorts of stories, you know, around. This is where the commission's going to come in handy, Shannon. So hang on here, because I got lots of questions about that. But is that what you see?
You know, it is. I've struggled a little bit, especially in these months, October, November, December, January. They are the slower times of the year, although we're not really slow.
Right.
What I have is that, you know, we had this enormous summer where prices were so high, and the properties were getting snapped up no matter what the price was. And so when landlords or owners talk to me, they're expecting to get top dollar, maybe even over top dollar, and I'm trying to kind of educate them down a little bit that this is not the time of year to get top prices, because there is more options out there right now.
Is there a difference, Danielle, in terms of increases if I'm already living in the property or when I move out? I would assume that when someone moves out, that's a pretty easy time to raise the rent.
Yes.
So, but what if so how do you deal with that?
So when a lease the way my company works is we'll have a lease in place, and then when the lease ends, it automatically goes to month unless either party wants to make a change. So typically at that end of that lease is when the owner will want me to bump the rents. If the tenant is in the property and the owner likes the tenant's paying on time, everybody's happy, I usually won't go over $75 to $100 increase.
And that would be for a year? Is that what that
for like another year. Correct. Now, if the property is going to actually be vacant and I'm going to be re-advertising it, then I will look at, you know, I'll do my research and see if it's worthy of a bigger increase. But it obviously makes more sense to keep a happy tenant in a property than to have any vacancy. And even if you're not going as high in the rent as possible.
And, and tell me the range of rents that you have in your properties. What are people seeing when they come to a property manager or anybody really in looking at rental prices?
My properties range from probably about $700 a month, and there's not very many of those, so like a handful.
A few.
All the way up to, I think the highest priced one I have right now is $2,800 a month.
$2,800 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
so that's
it's a big range.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of money. Yeah. We're with Danielle Roberts from Sterling West Property Management and Shannon Pewters from John L. Scott here on the Real Estate Show today. On this first weekend of December, we're talking rental properties. Now, Shannon, you brought this up. You volunteered here, which I love when real estate brokers do things. We talked about the Earth Angel Foundation. The Medford Earth Angels Foundation a couple of weeks ago on the show, the volunteers that do that, which is really cool. But you volunteer in a different way for your city. So tell me about the housing, the Community Development Committee. That's the group that doles out money, I know, to different nonprofits. But the housing part of it is what we're interested in. So how come you decided to do that?
Well, that's a good question. I guess if I think back to my college days, I was really involved in grassroots efforts of helping out the community I lived in. So whether that's tutoring local students or just rolling up your sleeves and doing Thanksgiving dinners like we did a couple weeks ago. We fed about 100 local homeless people and some volunteers. Okay. And so there's a lot of great ways for people to get involved in their community and help out. And so for me, I really wanted to get an understanding of the real estate market. And the best way was just to get in there and be a part of these critical conversations. So part of what we do, it's a small group of us that we make recommendations to the city council on the needs in our community related to housing. So anything that we can do to provide economic and educational opportunities for the people of Medford is really what we strive for. What we're most well known for is what's called the CDBG, and that's a Community Development Block Grant. And so every year, applicants come through, which applications are due in January, and I can get you all more details for that. But they come through and go through this application process and give a presentation to us and tell us their needs and why it would be beneficial to the community. And we just go through that and determine really what the needs are of the community and how we can help fulfill those as a city. And it's a really exciting process. We see a lot of really great nonprofit organizations come through. And the best part is at the end, we see a lot of citizens come up and say, hey, by doing this, I was able to get into a house. And, Habitat for Humanity or these different programs where, hey, this one gal I heard, poor lady, she was a single mom and lost her job. One of her children had some medical issues and she needed to tend to them. And they were in a position where they had a rat infestation. And, she told this really tragic story how in the middle of the night, the mice were chomping at their feet and nobody should live in those situations. And it was through these programs they were able to find clean and decent housing. And, it's things like that when you really feel like what you're doing impacts people's lives is why I do it. I guess to answer your question.
Well, I'm curious as to, and you both can answer this one. What do you think are the housing issues, that Medford has right now? If someone came to you, Shannon, if we came to you, and said something about these things, what do you think they'd be? What do you think, Danielle? Is it rentals? Is it high rents? Is it not available? Unavailability of public housing, subsidized housing, whatever. What do you think it would be?
I would say the biggest problem I see is definitely inventory of rental housing, and then rent prices. That's probably the thing that I'm the most passionate about.
Okay.
While I make my money off these high prices, I also live in this community and really feel for my applicants and my tenants who come in and are struggling to make this rent payment work for them. The wages in the Rogue Valley haven't quite caught up to this rental price. Typically the recommendation is your rent should be about 25% of your income. and that's actually been raised to
I was gonna
30%.
say, that's low. It's
Right.
low the way these
And
prices are going.
people who are working a minimum wage job
Yeah.
and trying to make a $1,300 a month rent payment, I mean, I just really feel for them.
Well, I think people need to come before the Housing Commission. I know they're trying to they're building some subsidized housing. I don't know the names of those projects, here, in Medford anyway, but the city of Bend has just approved like 1,500 new apartment units to be built there to have their problems. And we've mirrored Bend in terms of the recession and the impacts and the recoveries and kinds of things. And we seem to be lagging behind. Is that what I mean, it seems like that's what it is. We got a break coming up there. We'll get your answer on the other side of that, Shannon, because you're going to have to face that, that as the commissioner there. We'll see, because it's a big issue. And it's just going to get bigger until we start doing something about it here. Well, the Real Estate Show here on KMED, we're talking about rental properties, rental issues with Danielle Roberts and Shannon Putris, and we are coming right back. The AM 1440, FM 106.7 after this. The Real Estate Show rolls along on KMED for December the 5th of 2015. Pete Belcastro with you here, and hope you had a terrific Thanksgiving and looking forward to the holiday season still ahead. Next week here on the show, the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors will be along, and we're going to talk about certain parts of lending that we haven't discussed with you yet, and looking forward to that show. Well, there's so much going on, with the statistics. So you talk about just the residential market right now is still still robust as heck. I mean, November was a record month for sales, and John L. Scott it was, and those kind of things. A lot of transactions. You'd think it's supposed to slow down as we're talking about that, but it doesn't seem to be. Where was Shannon Putris, a real estate broker with John L. Scott and a member of the Medford Housing and Community Development Commission here today, and Danielle Roberts from Sterling West Property Management on the show. So again, welcome to you both, and it's great to have you here and your perspectives of things, because one of the things I find when all of our guests come in here is that they're right out in the trenches. I mean, every day you do this, and every day you learn something, that's for sure. And Danielle even says that to me. It's true. You do that. Yeah. I want to ask you before we go on, Shannon, and good luck, by the way, on the Housing Commission. I mean that really seriously. And I hope it works out. And you're going to learn a lot. And you need to come back and tell us some of the issues that people will tell you that are housing problems in our town.
Sure.
All
sure.
right?
Yeah, and it's an open forum. It's the meetings that we have on a monthly basis are open to the public, and we welcome people to attend. We actually set aside the beginning of every meeting for members of the community to step forward and talk to us. And we do see a lot of representatives that will come and talk to us about homelessness or the need for more housing to have handicap accessible doorways and things like that.
It's like that, yeah.
Yeah. So please, we meet at the first Wednesday of every month at 5:30. At the downtown building, room 330. So come on down.
Well, tell them you want to televise the meetings and put them on cable. Okay, that'd help. I mean, that would
and on radio.
That would really help getting that out there. And well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
I wish you well, and I can't wait to hear more from you as you learn more as well.
Thank you.
And that kind of thing. Well, it's amazing because look how many people. I hope people would show up at some of those meetings. Look how many showed up for the marijuana hearings that they had at the city council recently, and many should come up for housing issues because it's even more important in terms of where people live and the types of conditions I'm sure that exist around. And you ever turn stuff down, Danielle? It comes into you and say, well, they wouldn't even rent a place like that, have a property manager do something. It was a really bad place.
I actually had I implemented a scoring system.
Did you?
So when I go out to an appointment, it's very similar to like a listing appointment that you guys would do.
Yeah.
I view the property, I have a conversation with the owner, and I have a scoring sheet in my packet, and you have to meet the minimum score for me to take your property. Mm-hmm. I don't feel good about renting a place that's uninhabitable.
Substandard.
Yes, I mean I really don't feel good about that.
Uninhabitable is the other word, and they're out there.
There are so many out there. There really are.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The answer is no. I don't just take anything. A lot of it has to do with the owner. I actually have it worked out really wonderfully, really for all of us. But I had a property that was one of the kind of grandfathered properties when I first bought the company. It's a fourplex, and it's kind of just like barely at level. It's always been, but it's affordable. Rent that's one of my handful of $700 a month rents.
Right. Yeah.
And what I found was that it was very difficult to get the owner to take care of nothing uninhabitable, but even just it's time to paint, it's time to carpet, it's time to dress these things up a little bit. And I was having a hard time.
And if they don't want to do that, you should sell them and let somebody else come in and take these properties and refurbish them, right?
Absolutely. And actually, that's what she ended up doing.
Okay.
When these properties were put into escrow, my entire company was cheering, like, we're done, we're done. And then, of course, the new owner decided that they wanted to go with us as well. And I had to sit them down and just say, okay, I have to level with you. I was not going to take these properties back on. I will under one condition, and that is that you do X, Y, and Z and clean them up. And the owner was very agreeable and did all the things I asked him to do. We were able to bump the rents. We were able to get, some of those long-term tenants really got what they deserved, what they'd been putting up with. And then the other two, when they came vacant, got higher rents.
Sure.
And then it worked out because he ended up buying 11 more properties that I got to manage. So that was wonderful. But so really, it's not just about the property, but the owner. If the owner's willing to do the things that need to be done, we need all of these priced properties.
Yes, and they're everywhere. And you're right. If you don't take care of them, then sell them. And let somebody else, let investors that Shannon brings to the table or somebody like that comes through and do that. But they're looking for those too, aren't they? People looking for those.
They are, but I think that today's investor, they're not looking to come in and flip the house. No. I know these real estate shows are super popular and addicting and fun to watch, but your average investor isn't coming in and thinking of, what color they're going to paint the walls and how they're going to remodel the bathroom. They're coming in and looking at it from an investment perspective, and they want and need a company like Danielle's at Property or Sterling West Property Management to manage the headache for them. Their time is more valuable than the money and the commitment. And so real estate, we're learning, is not just finding a home for people. It's for themselves. They're looking at it from a pure financial perspective. And for Danielle's team to come in and take that off your plate, hey, by all means, if it can bring them some monthly income that is a long-term investment, they're going to go for that. And
it's a long-term investment. And you're right. I've learned one thing. I would not manage my own rental properties. I would not do that. I would hire Danielle to do that for the very reason that you say. Very reason you say. I mean, absolutely, because I want. And
truly, the cost of a good property management company far outweighs the cost that it could be down the road if you don't do things correctly.
And really, when we say don't do things correctly, we're talking about screenings of potential renters and all the rules that you have to know. That if you rent your own properties, you better know, because the renters know the rules. We've learned that too.
Absolutely, that's what I was going to say. The renters know. They're savvy, and they stand up for themselves as they should. And if you make a mistake, you're probably going to be called on it, and it's expensive. I mean, just showing up at a person's house without giving the proper 24-hour notice is a fine of 2.5 times the rent. Yeah. So, I mean, that's expensive. That's a big, expensive mistake.
And even for a realtor, if we're showing an investment property, we have to provide a 24-hour notice. Otherwise, we're in trouble.
Absolutely.
For that. So we have to be aware of those laws as well.
Well, I'm sure hoping that people will take note of that and think about who manages your properties and long-term investors, because that's what it is. You're going to put your money in the stock market right now. You're going to invest it in real estate. One place that you can certainly still find, the foreclosed properties are at homepath.com. I'm on that list serving every day that there's one or two or three sometimes that come on there. And those are good investment properties after that 30-day initial period if no owner occupied buys them. And I follow it some time now, and a lot of them come open. And they don't get owner occupied in that 30 days.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
They do, and I think that's why it's important for buyers to align themselves with a realtor who has their eyes and ears, and they're out there pounding the pavement every day to watch these listings as they come through. I think a lot of buyers are scared off to use a realtor because they don't understand the process. And the more that we can educate them on, hey, don't worry, you don't pay my commission. I'm here to help you represent you in this transaction. And that's why I love what I do. I get to be a part of new chapters in people's lives and help take them to the next level. And it's just such a very interesting time in our community. I'm seeing a lot of changes in our demographics of those who are buying. We're seeing for high net worth individuals, they call them HNWIs. HNWI.
That luxury market people.
They are, okay. Yes.
And what are you seeing there?
So, last year we were seeing from a global perspective that most HNWIs were coming from the U.S.
And they're not. They're coming from...
No, they're from Asia.
From Asia.
Oh, yes.
Well, we've got a break coming up here. We'll talk about that. You're absolutely right. They're here. I mean, the whole market. The Real Estate Show here on KMED. We're with Danielle Roberts and Shannon Putris today on The Real Estate Show. We're coming right back. Final segment today, right after this. The Real Estate Show continues here on KMED this December the 5th of 2015. Pete Belcastro with you. I hope you're having a terrific weekend. Make something happen. The weather, we'll see what the weather is it's winter. It is, and it rains, and isn't it great to see, though? I have to say, hope we get lots of snow. As long as it stays above the valley floor, I love it. It's when it gets down and I can't get out of my driveway for 4 or 5 days, and that's happened too, Anyway, so welcome to the show today. We're here at the end of the year. We're with Danielle Roberts, the owner of Sterling West Property Management, and Shannon Putris, who's a real estate broker with John L. Scott. And we're talking rental markets and kind of the issues facing that. Housing. Shannon is a new member of the Medford Housing Committee and their urban growth, the CBDG, and I can remember that group, the development group as well.
Housing and Community Development.
Housing and Community Development. Yeah. That's what it is. Jesus, these titles. Anyway, so welcome to you today here on the show. What was Danielle? What was 2015 as you look back on this year? Just kind of what was it like for you guys, for the rental market, you think, in the county? Tell me what you thought.
It was definitely good for the homeowners. It's
good for the landlords.
Good for the landlords. Good for the property management companies.
Kind of like residential real estate. It's been good for the sellers more than the buyers.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And same. Not so good. Not as good for the tenants. Mm-hmm. Wonderful for the owners. Mm-hmm. It's been very busy. Renters have to work hard at getting a rental. Mm-hmm. So if they want a place, especially in July, August, if they finally find a house that they like, which was a challenge already, then the work of actually being the first one in line with their application to actually be able to qualify and get into that place, it's almost like a job for them. So I think that's probably
your advice to people thinking about that? That's the biggest thing that they should do is get ready. You sound just like a real estate broker, You sound just like Jim Remley, market ready day one. You better be ready or you're going to lose it. Absolutely. Same thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think that at the beginning of the year, I saw a lot of renters come in with kind of the attitude of, well, I've got my St. Bernard. I don't want to pay an application fee. I'm going to wait and look at a few other places, that kind of attitude. And then they lost all the places that they wanted to see because there was a million people behind them that didn't have a St. Bernard, that paid their application fee, that didn't wait around. So that would be my biggest advice. If you find a place that you like, you need to put that application in. You need to pay that application fee. Those fees are refunded to you if your credit isn't checked. So it's money up front, but you get it back. And that's the only way you're going to get the place that you want. The place that you want. You got to be ready and think ahead and do that. Absolutely. The thing about renters, you're kind of on your own. At least the real estate broker, you got somebody helping you along the way to do that. I think that's a big difference between being ready if you're buying something or trying to be ready when you're renting something. Sure. You have a little help there, actually. I didn't realize that, but that's really true. I really didn't realize that either till right now. Who's educating the renters? Who's helping the renters through the process? And how do you know these processes that you're just talking about? It sounded complicated to me, but but I'm saying
but there's nobody there to help them. They have to call you up, and that's really isn't it?
Absolutely.
It ends up being your job almost to educate them because there's
and really
no place.
I'm the last one that they talk to
Yeah.
because everything's online. They go on the website, they look at the house, they think about it. They don't call me until it's almost too late for them.
That's
So
it's interesting there. So I asked Shannon, I go, if you were advising somebody to get $1 million, how would you invest it in the house? You say you're going to invest it in housing in Jackson County. What would you take? I loved your answer. Tell people what you said that you would advise someone to do.
Well, other than buying land for a winery, and that's a whole other topic.
That's a whole other issue
Yeah,
there. Those rural properties there. Yeah, that's a.
I would really say hands down is to buy multi housing units that will be available for affordable housing for people who need affordable housing. So duplexes.
To buy or to build, or both.
Both. Buy it up. Most at this point, build. We're seeing even in building, in new construction, a 36.3% increase over the last 5 years, and a 15% increase in the last year. So buyers are becoming more confident in the building process, and so those that have held on to their land that they maybe had through the stock crash, for example, they're seeing the land values go up, especially as land values go up because of what we're seeing with the medical marijuana in the valley. But if they have residential lots, they're kind of more confident and say, hey, you know what, maybe it'd be kind of fun to build up a house just to see how it goes. So if that's the case, though, my recommendation is build it a lot.
Well, I certainly do agree with you on the need for affordable housing and complexes like that because you get some government subsidies along the way, too, in building some of this stuff, and that helps. And I don't think, Danielle, you'd have a problem filling them, would you?
absolutely not.
There'd be no problem.
No.
The waiting lists for HUD homes, I know, and those kinds of things are very long. So the acute shortage is out there.
Yes.
And,
they would be.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens with that. And you also said, Shannon, I want to give you a chance to say, regarding the foreign buyers coming into the West Coast, mostly Chinese. I mean, it's going to filter down to us, too, and we're going to see that as well. We're going to. That's why it seems like this housing market that we're in, the rental market that we're in, is going to continue to favor the landlords and the sellers for some time. It just seems that's going to happen in 2016.
I think if we can, and you're right. You know, I used to work for Harry and David, which is a staple in our community. Most people have worked at Harry and David that are from here at one point in their careers, right? So I had the opportunity to be a buyer over there, and I was in charge of the imports, so all the import commodities, and working with other countries like China and Poland and wherever, and negotiating these contracts with these overseas suppliers. And I saw firsthand their economy go from having a strong lower class and a very large upper class, but there wasn't really a middle class. And as we did more exports with them, there was a rise in their middle class.
Sure.
So your manager, your warehouse manager that was once, considered lower class is now driving a Mercedes to work. Driving, too, not using public transportation. So
And they want properties, and many are sending kids to school here. They want to buy properties here. And those kind of things, and you're going to see it. Maybe they want to buy rental properties too, because that's a great investment in our country. Is certain big rental units and things that are out there.
We're seeing so the demographics of this group that's buying up most of these properties are Asian females with cash. Asian females with cash in the millennial age group. And so for our local community, we have to do what we can to keep those young professionals here in this valley. We educate them here. We want to keep them here so they can invest.
Those are good stories. I absolutely agree with you 100%. That you can also Google Shannon Putris or Sterling West Property Management as well. Danielle, nice to visit with you.
Thank you.
Shannon, nice to visit with you too. Good luck to you, and have a happy New Year and a Merry Christmas to you as well. That'll do it for the Real Estate Show. We're back in another week.
You've been
Watch our
listening to the Real
shows.
Estate
Have a great
Show
week.
on KMED AM and FM radio, presented by John L. Scott Real Estate of Southern Oregon, along with with All Cities Property Management, the Home Builders Association of Jackson County, Ditech Mortgage, the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District, and the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. For guest information or to watch a past show, visit us online at realestateshoworegon.com. Join us again next weekend for Southern Oregon's one and only real estate show on KMED.